It is often said that the journey is more important than the destination, and that is because the journey shapes who we are. It changes and molds our aspects into something new and reinforces the old. I've been thinking about this as I've been planning out my series and its important elements, and I think I've studied some aspects of other shows and movies that influenced me. Interesting to see where I picked up some of my ideas from. One of the first of these was Frieren Beyond Journey's End, mostly because Frieren's journey itself causes you to ask questions about yourself. Who am I in this world? What are the things that I want? And what are the things that I've missed? And the series itself can break this down into two separate but important aspects. The first is almost physical. It's journeying to Ende to see Himmel again. This is the one that takes the group over mountains or through canyons and often into contact with monsters or demons that mean them harm. Sometimes these creatures will accidentally or deliberately pick fights with the group based on these ideas. The second half is about the people who are taking the journey. Frieren's desire to connect with the world and understand how she has changed as a person. Frieren's desires to live up to the expectations of her adoptive father and to take pride in her work. And Sark's desire to not be a coward, to have an adventure like his master did and share them with his stories with his own master. Both of these aspects of the journey mix together in interesting ways, forcing the characters to grow and explore who they are in interesting ways. Sometimes this will result in them facing off a terrible monster or demon, but it can also just as well result in them helping a grumpy old lady do chores. Either way, creating a scenario where we learn a little bit more about them and ourselves in the process. My second is one that I've watched since I was a kid, and that's Firefly, mostly because Firefly sets the stage for immediate world building. It's a world that's very easy to fall in love with from the beginning because it was a world that you can see potential in but was filled with setbacks, and those setbacks plagued the characters. Everybody on the crew of the Serenity seemed to have losses and never had something important in turn, but that's something that the Serenity would then make up for. I mean, the most obvious and direct example of this is Mal not having a home to go back to anymore, and this happened to him in two unique ways. One is that he lost his mom at some point prior to the series beginning. Given that she was the only parental figure in his life, though he did have extended family through ranch hands that worked for her, this undoubtedly resulted in a deep loss for the character. A loss that he probably thought he had filled by joining up with the army, trying to fight against the Alliance. However, when the Alliance lost the war and he saw most of the people that he'd served with be either destroyed or left abandoned, it didn't exactly fill that hole that had started to grow in his heart. But then he found the Serenity, an opportunity for him to have something that was in fact his and grow a family. Family is a theme that can also be felt in two other members of the crew in the form of Simon and River, two literal siblings who were so close and thought they came from the best advantages in life, still managed to lose it all for doing the right thing. Both came from a wealthy family and both really seemed to love each other in the best way that brother and sister could, but when River was taken and started being experimented on, Simon gave up everything that his life would have afforded him in order to save her. River, for her part, is conscious for this, though she still suffers with the scars left by others. And while not as direct, even other characters on the Serenity can definitely feel this way. Walsh and Jane, for example, are characters that don't get a great deal of screen time for their backstories, but it can be felt. Walsh came from a planet that was so polluted he couldn't even see the sky. That's why he became a pilot. A fact that very much mirrors a sense of longing that he needed to fill, and the Serenity helps fill that for his life. It also led him to his actual wife. And Jane is obviously not the deepest character, but it's interesting to note that I don't think he ever came from anywhere where he was respected up until he met Mal. He'd never really been treated as an equal member of probably any crew he'd worked on before, and being under Mal and Zoe is probably the closest he's ever been to that sense. It's why most of the time he remains loyal, and of the few times he isn't, he gets a very strict reminder of what life could be like for him. These losses and then what the Serenity gives people back is essentially a sense of found family. And to that extent, there is no greater source of found family than the last item I looked at, which is One Piece. Much like with Frieren, One Piece is a series that is literally about its journey. And in turn, the journey itself creates the found family of the Straw Hats. It's something that Luffy wanted before he ever even set out. Knowing that a crew that was going to be so close to each other that they would essentially be deeper than any family bond was like his number one dream going out, even as becoming the Pirate King was his top priority. And yeah, becoming the Pirate King is his dream. It's something that nobody thinks he can do, and he knows he wants to do, that he can do. And through that desire for a tight crew and for that desire to see a dream completed that nobody thinks he can do, he meets people that will ultimately see that in him as well. And it's not just that the Straw Hats are a tighter crew than what most families would be considered, and it's not just that they're on this incredible journey. It's that each Straw Hat has their own goal that basically coincides with how the journey to Laugh Tale is going to unwind for them. Nobody's dream is ever in conflict with the journey because the journey is the point. Zoro's desire to become the world's greatest swordsman, Nami's desire to create a map of the whole world. Even like something like finding an impossible place like the All Blue all really fold in line with the discovery of something like the One Piece, and it makes the Straw Hats an even tighter group for it. So I think for me, reflecting on this in my writing, It's simply not just that you have to have a goal in mind. Every character should have some kind of goal, even if that goal is not the most direct or easiest to understand, and that goal should also coincide with the flow of the journey. The journey shouldn't run in contrast to a goal. The goal should help run the journey. It should be the thing that they are striving to create and or pertain, and therefore changing them as a character and us as the reader and or viewer as we go. What do you guys think? What is your favorite journey as you go, and what are your favorite characters in any of these series, and how does their goal interact with that journey? If you like this video, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time.